Did I put it in photo? BG Zoom. I did. Huh. I'd shut you down. Oh boy.
Good morning, Mark.
Hey, Steve.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Where the heck are you? Oh, this is a virtual background?
Yeah.
Hey, that's great stuff.
Ghostbusters.
Straight out of Ghostbusters. I was just on the TV here.
Here, what else do I have? I picked out a
I
bunch.
I just approved you for the to change your email address on Google. The
Perfect.
Google.
Yeah, I got that and was able to verify the account with YouTube and get a video from last 2 weeks ago, the last one that I did uploaded. So there used to be a time limit of like no more than 15 minutes per video.
Yeah.
But then I got it to work. Do you know who Lindsay May is? Is that our?
Might be our speaker today. Let me look here real quick. Um,
I'm gonna look too. Hi, Paula.
Hello, love your background.
Thanks.
yeah, Lindsay May is our speaker today. Mark,
I'll let him in.
let her in.
It's a him, actually, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, that's what Carol was saying. She said he wanted to
Okay.
come in early to test to make sure everything was working.
Okay.
Maybe get rid of my background for that.
Good morning, Paula.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm good.
How did this stop?
I'm gonna close my door here.
Hey there, how are you doing, Lindsay?
Good morning. Hi there, Mark. I'm well, thank you.
You wanted to just test out, make sure everything was working appropriately?
Yeah, can I just share my screen? And
Yeah,
see
hold on, let me give you that option. There we go. You should have the ability to do that now.
Okay. Okay, now I have got in this. There's a video in here.
Okay.
The video. Whoops. And see if you can hear the sound. Can you hear the sound?
Yes.
Like a thumping kind of drum beat.
Yep, that's it. Okay.
Fantastic.
All right, I'll stop share. There we go. All right, okay, all systems go.
Fantastic.
Looks like you've done this before.
Yes, yeah. I think I got to you guys through Fort Collins. I'm not sure, but I'm on a RI committee. One of the members is Martin Limburg from Fort Collins, and it was Martin I spoke to his club some months ago, and then I've got a feeling this flowed out of that. I'm not sure.
I know Martin. I know Martin real well. I know Martin real well. So.
Oh, do you? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
He and I were on the Brew Fellowship together. That's Beers Rotarians Enjoy Worldwide.
That sounds like Martin.
And Martin begged me to be their treasurer. So now I've done it for three years.
I see. Okay. Well, unfortunately, we used to meet up twice a year in Evanston, but COVID has stopped that. And and Martin,
are you a sergeant at arms with Martin? Are you a sergeant at arms?
No. It's a fund development committee for the foundation.
Oh.
This is the 2.025 billion, that's with a B, for 2025 project. So, yeah, I've certainly seen. I saw him in Hamburg, and yeah, that's where I met him. Oh no, I'd met him in Evanston before that, but then we caught up in Hamburg.
Yeah.
So the last time we saw each other was October of last year.
Just the right light for me to.
Okay. And what sort of weather have you got today in Steamboat Springs? Is it starting to get cold or?
It got to 13 below last night. So.
Oh, really?
It's not regular seasonal weather. It's kind of
okay.
We got about a foot of snow the day before that, and in 2 days it'll be 50 Fahrenheit.
Right. Okay. Yeah, we've got rain all this week, which is rather nice. Just coming into summer, it's good to have rain because last year we had such terrible bushfires until February. Then we had very, very, very heavy rain, which was fantastic. Put all the fires. We just had extraordinary bushfires here last year from November through to early February.
Yeah, it's kind of what kicked off this terrible year for all of us. And everyone's forgotten about those fires now.
Our fault.
That's right. Blame you.
The farmers have had, fantastic crops underway, and then in certain areas this weekend they had very heavy hailstorms, which knocked all the heads off the wheat, and they just can't take a trick.
We've had some pretty terrible fires here lately.
So yes, I'm aware in California what's been going on.
Well, in Colorado here, we've had state's two biggest fires in history just in the last.
Is that right? Yeah. It's sure is a concern. What about COVID in your area? What's your experience been with COVID-19?
Colorado had been doing pretty well, but I think in the last week or so, maybe the last month, in the last short period of time, we're up about 70%. Everything's kind of on the rise again. We're doing pretty well here. We had one case yesterday in Sydney and basically zero across the rest of the country. That's amazing.
Been severe lockdowns all the way along. And yesterday, the state of Tasmania said they'd open up to New South Wales, but Victoria is the problem. Well, Victoria's gone 3 days with zero now, but they had a spike, a second wave. But it's been devastating for the economy.
My brother-in-law works for a mining company in Denver, and they've got several mines out in Western Australia. And now with all the COVID stuff, everybody's working remotely. He has a coworker who's Australian who can't get back in the country until he quarantines then for 14 days. And then just to go out back to Perth, he needs to wait, he'd quarantine another 14 days.
That's right. The West Australian Premier, like your governor, the West Australian Premier has been really hard on that and is not opened up, whereas the other states are now accepting people apart from Victoria. And WA, yep, you've got to quarantine again, even if you've come in from overseas and quarantine.
Yeah.
And the West Australians are a remote sort of breed. They sort of rather like that to a degree. They're quite happy to keep everybody else out.
Sure.
But sadly, I've got 2 grandchildren living in WA, so I haven't seen them for, we would have normally gone over in about February or something, and it just hasn't been able to see them at all.
Lindsay, I'm Carol.
Oh.
It's nice to meet you.
Hi, Carol. How are you going? Good to see you.
You also, and thank you so very much for doing this. We are so excited.
No, thank you. My pleasure.
It's been very pleasant visiting with you long distance via email, so it's great to actually.
It's great.
So.
How are you feeling?
I am feeling great.
Good. You got a
I am
haircut
negative and all is good, and so yeah, I've got a new lease on life.
and you got a haircut.
I did.
Looks good.
I'm going back to the old curly state instead of the old straight bob. So it's only 30 minutes old, honestly. So thank you. Well, Lindsay and Mark, I'm assuming you guys got everything all straightened out. So you're.
Yeah, we're all good to go.
Oh, fabulous.
He's a natural.
I must say, Lindsay's resume is so impressive. I don't know what parts I could even cut out of it. So your intro may be a little longer, but it is something else.
Now cut lots of it out, please. It's just a general purpose one for wherever I'm going. But
Well, I'll try and pick and choose, but like I say, there's nothing in there that that I would hate not to share. So I'll try and speak quickly so you can get on with your program.
And Carol, just the time, how long do you wish me to speak for?
Generally, our programs go about 20 minutes to leave 5 or 10 minutes for questions afterwards.
Yep.
I'm assuming that we can use up to 30 minutes with all questions involved. Is that Jillian's nodding yes? So I think that's in keeping. So you probably have a better feel for if you get lots of questions at the end, Lindsay. So I would think.
Yeah, the challenge when you're doing this via Zoom is that once I start my presentation, I can't see any of you guys. And it's a little bit hard to get the feel. You know, when you present personally, you can see the audience and you can see what might be of interest and what not be and who's asleep and so forth. So it's, you're really on your own when you do a presentation on Zoom. It's really difficult. But anyway, I'll just roll into it. We know the sound works, so that's the most important thing.
That's great. Yeah, good. Okay. I'm sure it'll all just go wonderfully.
We'll invite you to do it again in person when it's available.
Wouldn't that be wonderful? I have a mate, works in Aspen. He runs a house for a very wealthy Australian in Aspen, a guy that I've sailed with, and it's an area, Steamboat Springs. It just conjures up all sorts of visions in my mind. I guess we all Australians know we ski here as well, and we know about Steamboat Springs, but wouldn't have a clue of what the place looked like.
Well,
Well,
we'll hope someday you can come visit.
Yeah, I think you get a lot of Aussies come there in the winter to ski.
We do. We do. You know, it's so easy because they fly in. It's like a one stop. You fly into LA and then straight right into Steamboat or Hayden, which is just about 20 minutes outside of Steamboat. So it certainly is an easy place to get to for you.
I read in the paper at the weekend that wealthy Australians have been buying boats, power boats or yachts, I think motor yachts you call them, because they haven't been taking the family to Colorado skiing this winter. They had more money.
I hardly think the cost of a yacht is going to be the cost of going to Colorado, but you never know.
I thought it was a bit odd myself, but if you had 5 or 6 kids, maybe,
Oh, very
especially if you
good.
fly first class.
Exactly.
Mark is doing a little
Horror
movie
movie
trivia right here. If you can guess the background to his. Heather's really good at this, I can tell.
Heather's got 2 so far. This might be my last one.
Heather's jumping around like she knows the answer to this one.
I think she's just celebrating her win on the last 2. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What was the first one?
First one was Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters. And then the plaid one?
The plaid one was The Shining. You got that one.
Oh,
Didn't you get that one?
well, but there was a plaid couch one.
That was also The Shining.
Oh, they were both. Okay.
Yep. Oh, Heather's got it. Heather's got this one. Friday the 13th.
Dang.
Old school. I don't think I have any other ones. Let me see. You could tell I've been hard at work this morning. No, that's it. I've got another Ghostbusters one that I haven't done yet. Or I did. Steve saw this one. And then one more from The Shining, and that's it.
I see a theme happening.
Well, it is Halloween. This is our last meeting.
Halloween.
There you go.
So where's my other one? Oh, my other Shining one is the Overlook Hotel.
Our neighbor.
Yeah, based on the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, which is still standing, thankfully.
It is still standing.
Yeah, Estes is safe.
Red rum, red rum.
I like it.
I have to give credit to Chris for that one. That was his. Looks like we're getting up there on our attendance.
Up to 40.
Great. Are you recording today also, Mark?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I record by default. So Steve's meeting from last week should have recorded on his computer unless he shut it down.
It did, but I wasn't able to send it to anybody because the file is so big.
Awfully big. Steve, maybe we can do a USB key.
That's what I told Jillian. I said, next time I see her, I'll bring a USB. It's 1.4 gigs.
Yeah, they get pretty large.
Can't really send it. You can't even load that on Dropbox. So
Ollie, who is iPhone? Good question. Who's logged in as just iPhone? I don't see them, so they must not have video. Oh, is that Rabisa coming in 2 ways? No?
Not you today? How about Karen Schneider?
Could be Karen.
No?
Well, mystery. Whoever wants credit can take it.
I'm going to get us started in 2 more minutes at 12:05.
This is Karen Schneider, and that wasn't me.
Thank you, Karen.
Good turnout today. It's too cold for anyone to be playing outside.
Yes, we woke up and went on a walk this morning. I was hoping that Mike would say he was not interested because when I looked at my phone, it was 6 below. When we got back from the walk, it was 9 below.
Ugh.
And I'm not ready for it, I'll tell you.
No.
My blood's a little thin.
Why is
6 a.m.
that?
6 a.m. ice hockey practice was actually warmer inside than outside.
Oh yeah, I bet.
I believe that.
All right, it is 12:05 on my computer, which is the only time that counts. My phone says 12:02, but so let's get started. -20 at our place this morning. Ooh. Welcome everybody. Let's start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Got that, Mark?
I'm working on it. Sorry, you surprised me.
No worries. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And next is the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will be beneficial to all concerned. Thank you. Rex Bryce, you're up for thought for the day today, please.
Well, thank you very much, Jillian. And I was just wondering, do you get it all self-conscious, listening to yourself do that by yourself? It's not that we're not joining in with you. It's just that you can't hear anybody but you.
Maybe I'll start unmuting people at random just so we can.
I would like that.
It or, yeah.
So I'm a quote guy, and there are a lot of quotes that I really enjoy, but this one by Maya Angelou is a special one. It's it's one that means a lot to me, and in these times, I think it's appropriate with the elections going on and pandemic and everything else. If you can't change it, change your attitude. I think it's as simple as that. Hopefully we can all pay a little bit of attention to that in our lives.
Thank you, Rex. I do like that. I was going to tell you that I feel when I'm doing the Pledge of Allegiance, remember how many people have messed up on the Star Spangled Banner when they sing it like at a football game? That's what I always feel like I'm going to do when I'm the only voice I can hear on this. How about some introduction of guests and visiting Rotarians? Lindsay, we're going to give you a formal introduction in just a little while.
Okay.
So this is Randy. Matthew Rashan is on this call. He's an entrepreneur in the community, starting a hard cider company, ex-military, retired. He's interested in checking out our club. There he is, handsome devil, with a much better beard than I'm on here. So thanks, Matthew, for coming. We look forward to getting to know you.
Alice here. Is Andrew on the line, on the call? Andrew?
I don't see him today.
Yeah, okay.
Hi, I'm Sarah. This is the second meeting I've been to, and I was fortunate enough to be able to have coffee with Jillian this past week, which was great. And I'm interested in learning more about the club. Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. Anyone else? I'll just tell you, Sarah and I had coffee, like she said, and we did not stop talking the whole time. It was so fun. Who was just talking?
Ed Albright here. I'm got my application turned in. Looking forward to getting some more meetings in person and getting back into the club again.
Welcome, Ed.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Do we have any announcements? Anybody that would like to say anything that they didn't shoot me in an email? All right, I have one from Steve Weiss. He's not here today. He flew back to Pennsylvania for his mother's funeral. But he wanted to thank everybody who participated in the pickleball social. He said we had a good turnout and everyone seemed to have fun, even about those of us never ever first timers. And I second that. Big thank you to him for organizing that and Loretta for making it possible. I laughed so much on those, the 2 out of 3 that I made. I'd be happy to do it again if anybody wants to keep playing. And my personal favorite thing to do is trash talk Ralph Eppert the whole time. That makes it a lot more fun, right, Heather? All right, so we are up for today's program. Got to it quickly. Carol, would you like to introduce Lindsay?
Thank you, I would love to. Lindsay May joins us from Lane Cove, Australia, which is a suburb of Sydney. I'm going to give you, try and only hit some of the highlights because honestly, this gentleman has been so involved in Rotary and his community and in the sporting world that the list is very long of the awards and the number of directorships that he has participated in on boards. In 1986, Lindsay and 4 partners founded The Mailing House, a leading direct mail company, sold to Blue Star Direct in 2016, and now he heads up a team specializing in direct marketing to not-for-profits. This looks like the beginning of when he got in Rotary. In 1977, he was part of a group exchange team to District 555 in Canada. He joined Lane Cove Rotary in 1978 and has held most club positions, in addition to chairing a number of district committees. Club Service Training Membership Committee, has been assistant governor and Rotary Foundation chair, was a member of the Sydney 2014 Rotary International Convention Host Organizing Committee, and he received the Rotary Foundation Citation for Meritorious Service in 2018. He's a major donor and a member of the Rotary Foundation Fund Development Committee and is currently district governor-elect for his district. He has also served on the board of the Fundraising Institute of Australia, the Prostate Cancer Foundation of Australia, was recognized as a fellow for that Fundraising Institute, and also received inaugural Prostate Cancer Foundation of Australia award. 2007, he was awarded in Lane Cove Municipality the Citizens Leadership Award for service to the local community and sporting bodies. On Australia Day in 2017, he was awarded the Medal of Order of Australia. This I thought was of great interest. April of 2017, Lindsay and his 2 sons trekked the rugged Kokoda track in Papua New Guinea and raised $29,000 for the Salvation Army. He was also on the faculty for what was called Madison Down Under, University of Wisconsin, in case you're wondering, fundraising course that he taught for 7 years. He has been a speaker on fundraising legislation, ethics, direct mail, blue water yachting, having competed in a record 47 consecutive Sydney Hobart yacht races with 4 wins as navigator or skipper, navigating in most international ocean races, Fastnet, Newport, Bermuda, South China Sea, around Hawaii, Transpac, and Admiral's Cup. Lindsay and his wife, Tanya Mace, also a Lane Cove Rotarian, have 5 children between them and 7 grandchildren. Lindsay, thank you again for getting up very, very early this morning, or which is actually tomorrow morning, and joining us, and we look forward to your presentation. Welcome.
Thank you, Carol. That's very nice. And it's wonderful to be with this club. I did a little bit of research on Steamboat, and you're really a busy club and you look like a great group of people. So I'm sorry I can't be with you in person, but that's the way it is. And due to the wonderful daylight saving time, I got an extra hour's sleep this morning. It's only 5 a.m., not 4 a.m. as I expected. But you know, it's like when you go on an early morning flight, I think I've woken up every hour since midnight. I'm just waiting for the alarm clock to go off. Okay, I'm going to share screen now and I'll just hook up to this presentation. So, yep, that's all done. Okay, can you see my screen now?
We see you great, Lindsay.
Okay, here we go. So the Sydney Hobart Yacht Race is one of the world's leading races. There are 3 races, and Carol mentioned the Newport Bermuda, the Fastnet race, which is in England from Cowes in the Isle of Wight out around the bottom end of Ireland and back to Plymouth, and then Sydney to Hobart. And it's a race that leading sailors around the world want to do a Sydney Hobart race. It's a pretty tough race. It started in 1945, and the gentleman at the top there on the right is Captain John Illingworth, who was a British naval captain, was in Sydney during the war in charge of the repairs of ships that were damaged in the Coral Sea battle and in the Pacific Theatre. And he was an accomplished yachtsman, designer, administrator, had done a lot of sailing in the UK. And in 1945, just as the war was coming to end, a group of cruising sailors from the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, which is the home of the Sydney Hobart race, decided they'd like to cruise from Sydney to Hobart to celebrate. And Illingworth heard about this and contacted them and said, why don't you make a race of it? Well, they weren't really into races because they were cruising people. And they said, well, have you got a yacht? And he said, no, I don't have a boat at all. So they said, oh, sure, well, we'll make a race. Illingworth went out and bought a yacht, a little tiny boat called Rani, and he crewed it with British Naval and British Army men at the time. And off they went on Boxing Day, to 26th of December 1945. And because these other guys, as I mentioned, were cruising people, they stopped at night and they put into little ports and bays, and there's records of them going ashore and shooting rabbits and cooking up rabbit stew for dinner. But being a naval man, they continued on Rani 24/7, and ultimately they won the race. And because it was the first race ever, they set a record for the race. They obviously got line honours, and being the smallest boat in the race, they also won on handicap. So they did the treble. It's only been done about 4 times in the 75 years. I mentioned, obviously, Sydney to Hobart, and this is 628 nautical miles. This is Bass Strait here, which is renowned as a very, very rough area, a little bit like the Bermuda Triangle almost. And then this little section down here is shown up here. This is Tasman Island here. It's 50 miles from the finish. So we come around the corner and then sail across what is known as Storm Bay. And there is nothing from here to Antarctica. And it can be very, very rough. I've had 55 knots of breeze in Storm Bay, and there can be nothing in Storm Bay. We talk about the 7-year itch in Hobart race, the Sydney Hobart race. And in 1956, although only 7 boats retired, it was very, very heavy weather and started off this 7-year cycle. 63, as you can see, 23%, 70, 77, 84, 1 person was lost in that particular race. And these are very high retirement levels in these particular races. 93, so that's the end of this 7-year itch. And then we had 98, 6 people lost their lives, 2004. So you can see this is when you've got 100 boats or so heading off to Hobart, that's a significant number of boats that are retired because of weather, mainly. Bad conditions. And across the years, only 17% have retired and 10 people have lost their lives in this yacht race. I'll now head to 1998, which is the race where 6 people lost their lives. And here's a short video to set the scene.
In just 4 days, we have witnessed extraordinary courage, strength, initiative and sadness. We've seen coordination at a level unprecedented in any other recent maritime operation in Australia. in conditions that can present themselves at any time of the year in these latitudes, but which materialised at this time.
An Air Force Orion joining the already crowded skies of search planes. And then a breakthrough.
I'd say it's definitely everything. Yep, I agree.
A life raft with 4 crewmen on board was sighted.
There are 70 boats that have retired from this year's race. There are a total of 45 that are still racing. There have been 50 crew evacuated from 6 yachts, 42 by helicopters, both civilian, naval and police, 6 by the fishing trawler Josephine Jean and 2 by the HMAS Newcastle.
Roger, we confirm that we have within 30 minutes 1 rescue chopper, quickly followed by another, over. Roger, out to you.
There have been 2 man overboard searches, one for the crew member off Kingara who was successfully retrieved and one for the crew member from Sword of Orion who is still missing. There has been 1 life raft rescue where 6 of 9 members of the crew of Winston Churchill were recovered from 2 life rafts. There have been 6 yachts abandoned. They are Stand Aside, Mini Tinta, Sword of Orion, Business Post Naiad, Winston Churchill and Midnight Special. For the families of the British yachtsman Glyn Charles and crewmen of Sword of Orion, Bruce Guy and Phil Skeggs from Business Post Naiad, and the crewmen of Winston Churchill. We express our condolences and we share your loss.
So it was a big wake-up call for everybody, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. So last year, 2019, the 75th running, I sailed on a famous old boat called Love and War. She was built in 1973, won in handicap in 1974 and 1978. And then in 2006, I had the honour of skippering her to a Hobart win. And this was a win that was around the world. People realised that old boats could go to Hobart if they were properly sailed, well set up, and with a little bit of luck, perhaps they could win this race. And we, a bunch of guys that have sailed together a lot over the years, come together. Not every year Love and War goes to Hobart, but we just do a little bit of training. Here we are on Sydney Harbour with the wonderful bridge behind us, and the Opera House is just on the left-hand side behind that spinnaker there. We're in a position here where we're pulling this kite in, or put this spinnaker in as we call it. Here's a little video that sets the scene for the 2019.
Under the watchful gaze of the sailing world, Sydney Harbour woke this morning to bright sunshine and clear skies. In stark contrast to the recent weather that had brought a shroud of bushfire smoke over the harbour, a 10 to 15 knot nor'easterly breeze meant conditions were close to perfect for the start of the 75th Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race.
It's Rolex Sydney Hobart, you know, it's one of the most iconic ocean races in the world. Rolex and the CYC and the Royal Yacht Club of Tasmania, they do an amazing job. It's just a really special event to be part of.
We've got some of the best boats in the world here, 5 of the top Supermaxes in the world, right through to, the truly amateur crews, families, friends sailing together. It really is a great mix.
As is tradition, at 1 p.m, the cannon heralded the start of the 628 nautical mile offshore challenge, and the 157 entrants were off and running. Christian Beck's Infotrack outshone her immediate competition early on, leaving the other 100-footers dueling in her wake. While there is no prize for reaching the harbour heads first, there is plenty of kudos. And in front of the thousands lining every vantage point, it was Infotrack that comprehensively took the plaudits this year. Mixing it up with the early leaders were a group of the fast 52-footers. The forecast conditions have led many to predict that a boat around this size may have a good chance of claiming the overall race win on handicap and raising the Tattersall Cup at the finish in Hobart. Behind, the main body of the fleet, made up of boats both big and small, both Corinthian and professional, began their epic journey. Back towards the front, Comanche's expert crew had found their groove, pressing the current race record holder into a commanding lead on the water. There is a long way to go, and nothing can be taken for granted at this early stage. Join us again tomorrow as the 75th Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race fleet heads south towards the infamous Bass Strait and then on to Tasmania.
That sets the scene a little bit, and this race is, like I mentioned, a traditional race. And on Boxing Day, we have a cricket match, which is held in Melbourne every year, an international cricket match. And they go to lunch at 1 o'clock, and this race starts in 1. So all the sports fans watch the cricket and then go straight onto the Hobart. They have that for an hour, and then the cricket comes on again. The cricket goes for 5 days, a bit much like the Hobart race. On the morning of the race, we have a briefing, and this came out of the 1998 race. And I mentioned 6 people were lost. There was a club had an inquiry, and because there was 6 deaths, there was a coronial inquiry into this as well. And we have a compulsory weather briefing on the morning of the race. And one of the things that's really important is the current off the New South Wales coast. And this is an infrared chart of water temperature. And here, this is red water off Sydney, and this is in an eddy going this way, and there's eddies. I won't go into the full details of this, but the thing is that, like the Gulf Stream, we have a current that runs down this coast here. And as navigators, we try to get our yacht into those particular water, which is headed in the right direction. 24 degrees up here, 15 degrees, I'm talking centigrade, of course, down here, and Hobart is just down on the bottom down there. We have all sorts of aids today to help us, and this is a printout of the weather, what's called Met-Eye, and we've got Sydney here on the afternoon of the race, and this is 25 knots of breeze here, and this is 2 o'clock in the morning. And what happened is down the coast, Sydney's just up here, about here somewhere, and this area here, they ran into like 5 knots, so the big fast boats stopped sailing for a while, or just ghosting along, while the little boats managed to come down in this lighter breeze. The fleet closed up a little bit, but then it just opened up and they all took off again. I'll just ignore this slide, other than to say we have software that we put in a mathematical model of the boat, and we put in a mathematical model of the weather, and it tells us what speeds, what angles we should be sailing to get the most out of the boat. But at the same time, as a navigator, you really need to know what you're doing. And this is a course chart that comes out of that expedition software. And the green line here is the ideal course that we should take. The blue line is that course where I've added the current in, and you can see this eddy up here, which we're never going to get any benefit from, but there's a current eddy here, which is worth being in. But this year, it wasn't a heck of a lot favourable to us. Some shots at the start from on board our boat. If you sail, you'll know we've had a pretty good start here. And off we go the next day, down off the New South Wales coast. There were 175 yachts this year, so we did see boats along the way. In other years, you'll leave Sydney, and from the next day, for the next 2 or 3 days, you will not see another boat until you get near Hobart. And the obligatory sea life off the coast. Now here's zip on board now, Love and War, and we've got a spinnaker up here that we have to take down, and you'll see the action as we get rid of this spinnaker, because the breeze is starting to get up, and this sail will only take us up to 18 knots. Try not to get it wet in the water. It goes down the hatch here. And there'll be some people below, including myself, dragging this spinnaker in. In rough weather, it can be a bit wet because waves will come in over that, down through the hatch. So we've got that one away. And as quickly as we can, we want to get the next one up. This goes up to 1.5 ounces, even though we use metric in Australia. With spinnaker cloth, we prefer in imperial. So this is a heavier spinnaker that'll take us up to about 30 knots of breeze.
Are we happy? Yep. Yeah, yep, got it.
Now that spinnaker's all set and drawing. Now I'm going to jump back a few years to a much stronger breeze off the New South Wales coast to give you a bit of an idea of what it's like on the 100 footers.
After the spectacle of the start, the Rolex Sydney Hobart yacht race fleet progressed at speed down the east coast of Australia. Boxing Day evening brought fantastic sailing conditions for the 100-foot frontrunners, including Comanche and Infotrack. And as dawn broke on day 2, the 50 to 60 footers were also reaping the benefits, albeit in lighter conditions as they approached Bass Strait. Although outside of the race record time, the Line Honours Showdown promises to offer a dramatic spectacle when the leaders approach the finish in Hobart. Join us again to discover who will be crowned the 2018 Line Honours winner.
So you can see male sailing on those maxi boats. It's like being on a 100-foot surfboard, and the boats dive into the wave in front. They are going faster than the waves are going. And so that's why they're so wet. And they have a problem with their nose digging in, and it causes all sorts of pressure on the boat and stress on the rigging and the sails. Now we're going to go back to 2014, and this is on Love and War, and we're in about 40 knots of breeze here with the spinnaker up. We're just about at the top end of when we can hold it. We've got a red spinnaker up, that takes us up to about 40 knots. Beyond that, we won't have a spinnaker. This boat won't be able to surf down the waves. It will surge down, but our maximum speed will be about 12, 14 knots under spinnaker. And this is what it looks like at the back of the boat. This is fairly typical for a Sydney Hobart race. Nor'easter behind us, a nice ride to Hobart. These waves are going faster than we are. Now the helmsman is starting to chat to young Phil in the cockpit here. A bit of a concentration job, this. That's why you don't talk to the helmsman. And Joe's saying to the cameraman, make sure you keep the camera running when you go over the side. Now we get to Hobart, or down to the bottom end, Storm Bay. This is Cape Rail. It's about 40 miles from the finish, and this is a maxi yacht, Brindabella, back in the early 2000s. And we're in there late in the afternoon, and it's not a good time to be there because generally you will run out of breeze. If there's not a storm happening, then it can be very, very quiet, and it's a long, slow night to Hobart. Get there at 11 o'clock in the morning. You'll normally have a sea breeze and you're home in 5 or 6 hours. This is taken from 1998 in Bass Strait. This is the back of an 80-foot boat. The spray coming over. And this is almost the same position about 6 years later. And in 8 hours, we went 2 miles purely because the water was moving in that particular direction. So just to finish up, Love and War, I mentioned, it's a remarkable boat, very well known around the world. And in 63, 64, 65, the yacht Freya took 3 consecutive wins. And Love and War with 3, even though not consecutive, is, as I mentioned, she's a heritage yacht here in Australia. And this is a little bit of an involvement with my involvement over the years since 2004. that's my presentation. I'm happy to take questions if you've got any questions there. A little bit quick, but we're limited in time, of course.
I'm sure we will have some questions. Thank you so much for that. Carol, please go right ahead.
I have a million questions, but I'm just curious, how large are the crews that you typically have? Is there limits on them, or just what's normal on them? I'm sure it depends on the size of the boat.
Absolutely, on the size of the boat. There is also a weight limit on the boat, because you've might have seen some of those pictures, all the crew, what we call sitting on the rail, and that helps the boat to stay more upright. It won't tip over, but it gives it better performance. And so there will be a weight limit. But we had 10 on Love and War. On those maxi boats, they might have 20, 22. It just depends on the systems on the boat. And then the little boats might have 6. Now, I understand that this year, if we go to Hobart, and I think we might be, Tasmania opened up yesterday, there is a two-handed division. It's just crazy stuff, two-handed, I can't believe. But that's really popular around the world these days, two-handed sailing, just 2 people.
Interesting, thank you.
How does sleeping work on a 5-day race?
Yeah, okay, well, we run watches. So again, on a 10 crew like that, the skipper doesn't stand a watch, and as navigator, I don't stand a watch, but we have 4 and 4. And during the day, they'll do 4 hours, starting at 6 in the morning, 6 till 10, 10 till 2, 2 till 6 p.m. And then at night, 3-hour watches through the night. If the weather conditions are really, really bad, you might only have 2 people on deck, just one guy steering and one guy to trim if anything needs to be done to the sails. And you put a couple of people below, and then you might swap over every hour. You usually will change the helmsman, the steerer, every hour, because it's very tiring and wet and cold. And
Heather, is that a question?
Yes, are you racing this Boxing Day? And my husband wants to know if you need any crew from Steamboat.
Okay, well, we hope so, Heather. It's obviously been a bit of an unknown, but as I mentioned, Tasmania, Hobart is in the state of Tasmania, the island state of Tasmania. And yesterday they opened up to New South Wales. And we would hope that continues. And the only state is Victoria. Now, the problem's going to be is that we won't have any interstate boats and any overseas boats, an overseas crew, because of the 14-day quarantine. I'd suggest there'll be very few people, so it'll be down a bit. But at the moment, it has not been officially said that the Hobart race is going ahead, but I know that in Hobart, they'd be very keen to get all of those crews in there for economic reasons. And we are training and getting the boat that I sail on ready on the basis that they will say yes.
Lindsay, we're getting a ton of comments in the chat box, just thanking you so much for the amazing presentation, and some questions as well. Carl Gills asks, are the crew tethered to the boat during stormy weather?
Yes, they are. Once the breeze gets over 25 knots, it's a requirement that you're tethered. So there's a harness with a clip, and we have lines, what's called a jackstay, that runs from the bow to the stern of the boat. And and if it's, like at night, you have to have a tether on, and at over 25 knots. Or if the skipper thinks that the conditions are such that you should have a tether on. Now, I saw another question pop up there about, do women sail? Absolutely. The first full all-female crew was in 1975, but this year's race is going to celebrate the first time that a woman went to Hobart. That was 1946. So a lady did go then, and more women over the years. And now, yes, there's quite a number of women racing. And 2 years ago, an all-female crew came second on handicap. They went within a whisker of winning the race on handicap. Really top women sailors from around the world.
We've got another question in the chat box there from Stacy. What boat are you sailing on this year if the race is conducted?
Okay, so this year I'm on a famous old boat called Kealoha 2, was built and owned by an American by the name of Jim Kilroy, and Jim Kilroy had a number of Kealohas. Kealoha 2 took line honours in the 1971 Sydney Hobart race, and then she didn't come back. And then in 1976, 75, 76, he came down here with Kealoha 3, which set a race record that stood for 3 years. Kealoha 2 went off cruising for a long, long time, and then a mate of mine and his brother bought it in 2016. We sailed the Fastnet race in 2017. The boat's been extensively refurbished. She's 75 feet long. She's not going to win online on us. She probably won't win on handicap, but it's just a bunch of mates come together and we just have a wonderful time going to Hobart on that boat.
We've got some hands raised as well. Karen? Sorry, you're on mute, Karen.
Unmute.
There we go.
I was wondering, in those early videos, the leader boats all have black sails and we think of sailing as white sails. So I was wondering if that was a specific brand or a specific style of boat, or what were those boats with the big black sails?
Yeah, nice pickup. Well done. So, yes, we think of white sails, and they were back in the days of cotton sails. And then we moved to Dacron sails, and we still have some Dacron sails with storm sails. And then we moved to yellowy coloured sails, which was Kevlar. Kevlar is that product that they make bulletproof vests out and so forth. And now we have carbon fibre. So those black sails are made carbon, and they're very thin filaments of carbon that are in a like a gluey product that they cook. And yachts are made out of carbon fibre, and you'll probably find the dashboard of your car and all sorts of products these days. It's very light, it's very strong, and it doesn't stretch. So the beauty of a sail like an aeroplane wing, is designed to, you know, provide lift through negative pressure on the curved surface. And carbon fibre sails are really, really good. The only problem is, I mentioned, they don't stretch. So if they do get completely overstressed, they essentially will just explode. So that's why you see black sails, and the hulls likewise are carbon fibre.
Very neat. Eric Rabisa has put his wrench down long enough to raise his hand for a question. There you go, Eric.
Okay. It looks like a couple of us are asking how you figure the handicapping. Is it based on the age of the boat, or are they handicapping one boat or crew, or how does that work?
Okay, another great question. So if you accept that a boat's speed is directly proportional to the length of the waterline, the longer the boat, the faster it will go than a smaller boat. Now, of course, sails are your engines, so you've got to have sails and all that sort of stuff. So what happens is, the boat is measured. The boat determines how much it tips over. You know, when a boat's sailing, it'll tip over and it becomes less efficient. The more it tips over, the keel in the water, it goes sideways. So all of that goes into a computer program and comes up with what's called a time correction factor. So if you consider that those big maxi boats, 100-footer, might have a time correction factor of 2, if it goes to Hobart in 2 days, multiplied by 2, it equals 4 elapsed days. Love and War has a handicap of just a little bit over 1. So if we get to Hobart in less than 4 days, we will beat them on handicap. And that's a pretty simplification of it. But the rule that we sail under now, the IRC, the International Rating Certificate, is accepted by everybody as being incredibly fair rules. So there are, you know, certain things happen. You can get, the big boats can get to Hobart in good weather and very, very quickly. And then if you run out of breeze, the little boats are not going as well as they should be. And so it'll end up being what we call a big boat race. Alternatively, the little boats can come flying home on a nor'easter in very, very fast and win. And we have the term a little boat race. So it happens, the weather plays a big factor in it.
Obviously, you've got a bunch of novices around with a lot of questions.
No, that's great.
Steve Sainer.
It seemed like a lot of the boats where there were rescues occurring were because the mast had broken. They were demasted. Is that the primary reason that boats get in trouble and have to retire? Is it being demasted?
Yeah, absolutely. That race was so horrendous. The waves were so bad. Boats were rolled over. And when the boat goes over, like 360 degrees, with all of that sail area, that the mast is not designed to have all of that weight against it. And that's what caused them to break off. But what actually happened in that race is that the majority of the boats that came to grief were boats that turned around and were going home. And so they've been in the race, they've had their best people steering the boat in the conditions, and the decision's been made, let's get out of here, this is too dangerous. And they then had following seas, so they would surf down the waves and they'd get to the bottom of the wave, dig their bow in, and the boat would roll. The boat rolled, which took the mast out and in some cases ripped the decks out. And so the boat was opened up. It was just remarkable that we didn't lose 40 people in that year. We had all those helicopter rescue assets in, which before the Navy got involved were all civilian, police, surf rescue, cliff rescue and the like. It would have been a major, major tragedy. And had that happened 10 years before without those helicopter rescue assets, it would have been a total disaster.
Paula Gregory had a question. Do you ever get time to just enjoy the sail, or are you working?
Yes, we do. And so some of those pictures under Spinnaker, when the wind wasn't so heavy, yeah, beautiful conditions, and you settle back and relax and enjoy the surroundings and enjoy your mates. And yeah, it is sometimes really, really beautiful. It's not always frightening.
I don't see any other hands. Oh, there's Paula. Paula, go ahead. You're muted, Paula. There we go.
My question is, how are captains and crews picked for each boat? And then how much time do you have to practice together so that you get used to each other? I know that in the America's Cup race, captains and crews spend years together, working together so that they can form a cohesive group. How does it work on this race?
Yeah, Paula, all of the above. So crews would not be working together for years and years, but these big international boats that travel around, those crews fly in, fly out, and boats shipped and so forth. In our case, as I mentioned, we're a bunch of guys that have sailed together for many, many years on different yachts. So you'll have, the first thing obviously is an owner. You've got to have an owner, and the owner might be the owner skipper. In most cases, they are the owner skipper, and they will have a group of people together that might have sailed with them on different yachts over the years. And if you're fortunate enough and good enough, you'll get invited to sail on that boat. And then others, people come in, and because they know their job, and they're quite competent. One of the big things, as you can imagine in this, is people getting together, being able to work together. You know, you don't need any one-outs, you don't need any rock stars and so forth, because you live together in a very confined situation for a number of days. So you've all got to get on together, be cooperative in what you do. And as far as preparation, we have races beforehand this year because of COVID, of course, has been a bit interrupted, but we have offshore races that we go on every sort of third weekend, a 90-miler and a 180-miler. 2 weeks' time, we've got our first 90-miler. And that's all lead up. And if you're getting new crew on a boat, that gives you an opportunity to see whether they get seasick. You really don't want people on a boat that get seasick. And in some cases, in those retirements, it is because of seasickness. They might have had a crew of 10 or 12 people, and more than half the crew are very seriously seasick, and they can't run the boat properly.
More questions keep coming in, so I'm going to keep asking a few more. Before I get to the ones in chat, Jim Steinberg, please go ahead.
Yes, this looks incredibly physical. What do you do for nutrition for the crews? Is there a chef, or is it all just MREs, or how do you keep everybody balanced nutritionally?
Yeah, so all sorts of different things happen. On the boats that I sail on, we normally will pre-cook and freeze meals. So we'll just cook them in a pot, stews and the like. Some of those big, like the long offshore races, they have dehydrated food. Those guys lose a lot of weight on a long race if they're going around the world and so forth. It is a short race, like it's 2 to 4 days mainly. So you can sort of survive that. The key thing is to be able to keep fluids up to crews. People don't drink enough in this, and that's what creates seasickness. People get dehydrated, they get headaches, they get ill. And as navigator, one of my jobs is to try and look after everything below the boat. And that's to keep people, fed and with hot drinks and fluid, patch them up if they're cut or whatever else, cook, keep the boat clean and tidy, and navigate. Yeah, it can be a problem, and there are people that just can't eat at all in a race, and energy levels are a problem.
And Philip had asked a similar question. Are cooking duties shared then, or is it the navigator below decks?
They can be shared. So I'll go back many years ago. One guy that I sail with, world champion yachtsman and so forth, and I've done a number of Hobarts with Steve, but he was on board as a helmsman. And you saw the picture there of Peter Kurtz, who was a famous Australian yachtsman, and he had 4 boats. I sailed on 3 of his boats from 1981 through to 2000. Well, Love and War was his final boat. Sorry, it was his first boat, but it was the last boat I sailed with Peter. And Peter had a rule where everybody on the boat had to cook a meal. And so Steve said, well, I'm a specialist helmsman, I shouldn't have to cook. So we're off the Tasmanian coast and Steve had to cook a meal and it was my job to wash up. And when I went down to wash up, he had used every pot, pan, utensil, everything that was on the boat had been used. And when I came up after about an hour and a half of washing up the dishes, Steve was steering and I said, Steve, what's with all the pots and pans and stuff? And he said, mate, you'll never ask me to cook again.
A bit of strategy there, I think.
Yeah, it was.
In one of the videos, it was one of Kurtz's boats, wasn't it? That the tradition dictated that someone who had never sailed before had to cross the finish line.
Yeah, look, it's different on different boats. When I first started sailing, it was the skipper, the owner, you know, like I'll steer the boat across. And I've been to Hobart on some boats where the skipper was as sick as a dog the whole way, in their bunk the whole way. But of course, once you get into the river, it's flat and they've come up and steered the boat over the line and all the crew go like, hey, mate, you know, where were you before? Like when we needed you. So, and then I got to sail on a boat, this Brindabella that I mentioned about, George Snow, a wonderful guy. And George's, what he did is he used to say best on boat. Whoever was the best on boat got the honour of steering the boat across the line at the finish. And on boats that I've been on more recent times, we've converted that to, if we've got a first timer on board, we ask them to steer the boat over. So you can imagine you're a young kid. Well, you've got to be over 18 now as a result of that 98 race. And so if you're a young kid and you're, you know, you want to get into sailing and you've been sailing skiffs and so forth, to be able to give them the wheel of a Sydney Hobart, right? It might be the first time they've steered the boat in the entire race. It's a great honour and great boost for them and their careers.
That's a neat tradition. Way to bring them in. Hook them for life, yeah?
Yep, yep.
It looks like maybe one more. Stacey Fain, do they ever consider rescheduling the race due to weather? I think I know the answer to this one.
Look, the race hasn't been rescheduled. I reckon it will be if we had conditions like that coming again. We know that those conditions are coming, and we have since had 2 races going north to Queensland in subsequent years that were delayed as a result of the weather. And of course, going north with a southerly would have been a very, very fast race. And the guy with the fastest boat that year was very upset because it was an opportunity for him to break the record, which was held by Brindabella. It was a record of the boat that I was on. So in a way, whilst it's not very sporting, we weren't all that upset that they didn't start the race on the Saturday. And Mark, you've done a great job of being the bandmaster on this. Well done.
I'm well practiced. We've been doing this for quite some time.
Best I've done. Best I've had. Well done.
Any other last call? Angie, is that a head scratch or a wave? Okay. Any other questions? I think that's about it for us, Lindsay. Thank you so much. I'm sure
Thanks, mate.
Words for you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Lindsay. That was so interesting. And we really appreciate this opportunity to get to hear from you as far away as you are under these circumstances. If you would like to stick around, the next part of our meeting is good news. And that is where everybody on the call has the opportunity to share good news, and all the money that we raise goes towards scholarships.
I'd love to stick around and see what you do. That's a great idea. We're struggling with that in our club at the moment with the sergeant session, changing it to a good news session. So great.
Yeah, great. Well, Mark and I have decided that we kind of always take this over anyways. So he's just going to run this and we can tag team seeing who's raising their hands and who wants to speak.
You've all heard quite enough from me. You know how this works. Holly, are you waving to go ahead? Please go ahead. And everyone else get your hands up. And Holly's, you got to unmute, Holly.
Yeah, I was trying to find myself. I couldn't find myself. I did want to put in $10, Angela, for Steve Weiss's happy hours last month. I just had such a great time, and it inspired me to get back out on not only the pickleball court, but the tennis court. And I'm so excited. I played tennis Sunday with Loretta, and it was amazing. Since I have new hips, I'm like a new person. So very excited.
Do those
Thank you, Steve.
robot hips give you an advantage at all?
That's right. That's right. So thank you, Steve, for that. And hopefully someone else will do it and we can do some more.
Who do we got? Eric. There you go.
Okay?
Yep.
Hey, guys. So Lindsay, thank you so much for that presentation. I grew up on the ocean, and it's been a long time since I've been back to Cape Cod and sailed on the ocean like that. And watching one of those videos, I actually got butterflies in my stomach. Realized I'm an absolute landlubber now. Absolutely. I've lost my edge for sure. And for the rest of you, I thought I'd explain, yes, you did see me wrenching on my motorcycle, taking that was another one of those free things that I acquired during and before COVID. So free motorcycle, which required a huge amount of work. And I got to learn how to take an engine apart and fix it. And then after it didn't work, fix it all over again. So I've been slowly picking away at it. And now that the snow is flying, I realized I need the shop for work, not for motorcycles and toys. So I took this advantage of this time to put it back together. And finally, I did get it started on Sunday. So we'll see if it holds together. I'm way over my head mechanically. Yeah, hopefully by this afternoon, I can pull a piece of equipment in here and do what I'm supposed to do, which is keep Rotary running instead of playing on motorcycles in the middle of the day. So thanks so much, everybody. You can put me down for $10 for good news. Good to see everyone.
And add Eric to the top of our resource list for motorcycle small engine repair. Who else do we have? I don't see any hands raised in the participant list. So go ahead and wave frantically at me and I'll try and call on you. Well, while other people are thinking of things to say, I'll go ahead. Thank you to Steve for managing the virtual meeting last week. I was out of town, just coming off the trail a week ago today in Moab, did the White Rim for the 5th or 6th time, which is always an experience. I have just about fully recovered, but had some time out this weekend down in Vail for lacrosse. So I've been not at home at all on the weekends lately. And the weekend before that, we were in Estes Park. I've been traveling way too much. So as a precaution, I've signed up for a COVID test. I'm not feeling any symptoms or anything, but I've been around a whole lot of varied people. So just gonna go ahead and do it kind of proactively and see what comes back. And yeah, that's all I've got. Put me down for 15 bucks. And let's get some more good news happening. I know it's cold, but let's keep everyone warm with our contributions to the scholarship fund. Carol.
Well, I left about the 1st of October to go back to Vermont and view the lovely colors of New England. And also with my husband, we were back there burying his mother's ashes that she had passed away earlier this year. We were with a very small group, only his sister and brother-in-law, and thinking we were being safe as anything. But in that time, one of his brother-in-law contacted COVID, in which case we were exposed. So instead of flying home, we jumped in our rental car and drove 32 hours across America back to Steamboat. Felt like that was the safest way. When we arrived back here, waited for a few days, tested. I tested positive, my husband tested negative, and we were both quarantined for the next 2 weeks. And they told us to wear masks and not sleep together. And we had just spent 32 hours in a car together and had been together. So we were pretty sure that wasn't going to happen. But we made it through that. Neither one of us really had any symptoms, felt really pretty darn good the whole way, a couple really minor ones. Got through it, retested. I am negative now. I am back to work, feeling fabulous. And very, very glad with my history that was somewhat compromised that I didn't have a bad case of it. So I'm very thankful. Hopefully I've got some of those little antibodies in me and are going to move forward through the next few weeks. And I just wanted to, Lindsay, if you are still on, thank you again for all my email, communications. It's been very fun talking to someone halfway around the world, and thoroughly enjoyed your presentation today. So thanks again, Lindsay.
Thanks, Carol. Who else? Who else have we got? How did we do on good news last week, Jillian? Everyone needs a little encouragement. Ange?
$568 last week.
Oh boy, where are we now? Like $35? We do have some in the comments. Loretta wants $10 for all the fun with pickleball. Carl's got $5 in for leaving early. Looks like Scott Marr is itching to say something.
Oh.
I've just been
There we go.
I'm only doing this because I don't want you to not have any money in the pot at the end, Mark.
I appreciate
it. Kicking. I'm lonely. Lynn's been in Hawaii for the last 10 days, and I think she's probably really glad she's there. I sent her a picture of what Steamboat looks like this morning, and she's sitting under a palm tree somewhere just laughing her butt off.
I guess she is. Andrew wants to know how much, Scott. How much is that going to go worth?
$20.
Thank you. Good 30% boost. Larry, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'll donate $20. That was a great presentation, Lindsay. Just spellbinding and super interesting. Thank you.
It really was a fantastic program. Thank you for that. It adds a lot more flavor than our local political forums, which we've been doing the last few weeks. Not that they don't have value. This is just a lot more entertaining. Oh, Karen, yeah, please go ahead. I just saw your hand up.
I'll put in $12 for 12 months in our Steamboat house and minus 12 degrees when we woke up this morning.
And the planets were aligned on that contribution. Anybody else? Don't make me call on you. I'm gonna twist some arms. I'm not really gonna twist any arms.
I had my hand raised, but I'm not sure if you're seeing it. It's Stacy.
Stacy, your camera oh, there you are. I got it. Sorry. Yeah, please.
I had a similar story to Carol, although not quite as exciting. And I never did test positive, but I fell ill about a week ago and appeared just to have a minor flu bug, but I had to go through the whole process of getting tested, missed the last pickleball game, which I was really bummed about, and a lot of other things because I had to quarantine until I got the results back. But I did come out to be negative and I feel great now. So back at work. But my good news is for the snow. Super grateful. 2 of the 3 remaining helicopters, we were up to 5 at one point, left yesterday. And I'm just so grateful for the snow and for the control of the fires. I'm very good friends with the airport manager at Kremling and Granby, and just super grateful that he got some reprieve for the troublesome creek fire, because that's just a horrible fire. So grateful for the snow. It could be a little warmer, but happy to see we're down to 1 helicopter. The helibase is still in place, and this helicopter will be monitoring the fire going forward until we get constant snow on the ground. So grateful for my health, grateful for the fires being more under control now. They're certainly not out and we still need to be careful, but it's looking good. And super enjoyed your presentation, Lindsay. As a retired Coast Guardsman, that was super interesting. And like Eric, I'm from the East Coast and a sailor, and so I absolutely loved it, and I'll be watching for your boat if that race goes forward, or I should say your yacht. That's great sailing. My sister and her family lived on a catamaran in the Caribbean for 2 years, and I used to go down and sail with them periodically, and so I absolutely love it. Pilots and sailors definitely enjoy the wind and the water. Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy. Margie in the chat box said that she'll give $10 for her first time playing pickleball and for all of the teachers especially Kit. And I know Kit was on earlier, but I haven't seen her. Paula, did I see you typing away at something? You're just chatting. You're just gossiping on the private chat. Gotcha. Anybody else? Tara knows what I'm talking about. She's the one talking with Paula. Ellen, I see you. Please go ahead.
Unmute. Okay. So it's a very indirect thank you to Jim Steinberg, because can you see what's behind Carol Johnson on the screen? She's in my living room. That's your photograph that I got for being president. So see, isn't it lovely? So $10, thank you. And thank you, Lindsay. That was wonderful. My brother's a big sailor, and I hope this gets recorded so that I can share it with him.
We are recording
I love
it.
Yeah.
And just earlier today, I was able to upload the first of our recorded meetings to YouTube. We had to verify the count and get everything all set up. Now that is set up, so we'll start popping these online. We'll link to them on Club Rudder. Including that awesome one we had from Cuba earlier in the summer, I guess it was. That was a great program, and I never was able to get it online. So we'll be able to upload that one now.
Great.
Anybody else? Jim has mentioned that in the chat box, so that he is not to be charged, I'm sure. Jim has mentioned that they're making snow like mad on the mountain. He's still cloistered in the Grand up there, I think. Jim, have you been able to escape yet? You're still locked in? There's plenty of food there, I'm sure. Julian, I think that's about it for us.
All right. I will put $20 in for the snow, and most of all for our local firefighters. It was so great to read that article last week and see Travis Wilkinson in there and saving the day. That was a really scary night last Thursday. I believe it was Thursday night, when that fire was just seemed like it was raging, and our firefighters were pretty much rock stars getting that under control quickly. And we drove down, we were on our way to Denver this weekend for one of my kids' soccer games, and we got almost to Silverthorne, and we were turned around. We followed the fire trucks from Kremling, and there was a fire right on 9, so they turned us around, and we had to go through Winter Park, and so we were able to drive through Granby and see everything going on there. So that snow is very, very welcome in this part of the state. That, I think, if there's nobody else to contribute to good news, that wraps us up for today. Thank you, Lindsay, so much. That was really a wonderful program. Rabisa put 10 more in for the firefighters. And next week's program will also be a Zoom. It's John Major with the Bud Warner Memorial Library. And then in terms of district things coming up, there is a Rotary Virtual Institute coming up from the 12th to the 14th. You can participate in as much or as little as you want, but they have some pretty amazing people participating. There's Rotary International Vice President Jarita Solari, who I have a major crush on. She is so amazing. Rotary International President Holger Knack, who I also have a major crush on. Rick Steves, the travel guru, leadership guru Steve Farber, and RI President nominee Jennifer Jones, which she's really interesting because she's the first international president, and she is in 3 years. Is that right, Ellen? Jim? Yeah, I think that's when she falls. So I'm really excited to hear her talking, and they have a ton of fellowship opportunities and brainstorming opportunities, a lot of probably different ways to look at fundraising and Rotary in general. So I'll include all the information. Oh, and Lindsay has a crush on Jennifer Jones. Wonderful. We'll forward you this information if you want, Lindsay, if you want to participate in that and see her speaking. And I will include all of that in the write-up, and see you all next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, great meeting.
Mark, you weird thing.
What is this
Resume
one?
Mark, go back. Where's Mark? That was so much fun, Mark. You have to look at Mark. Do
Oh,
it
yeah. Oh,
again.
sorry. I'm not highlighting. I'm not talking, so nobody can see me.
Oh, there we go. Woo!
Very spooky.
Oh.
That's how I look in the morning.
I bought a projector for Halloween. I love Halloween. Halloween a couple years ago, and was gonna like project this in Windows and stuff, and never got around to it.
So what do you have behind you? Do you have a green curtain behind you?
No, it's just a white curtain
And you're able to do that off a white curtain?
with a new. It's a pretty new computer. You need a newish computer, and then it can kind of sense depth using the camera. So it allows you to do the virtual background stuff. This is from Ghostbusters.
That's a good one.
Ooh, Ghostbusters.
This one also from Ghostbusters. I did these before the meeting started.
Oh, you should have done it when everyone was on.
Well, I did it before. I didn't want to disrupt the actual meeting. You know.
No,
I usually do.
I have to say, this was one of the most fun programs. It was so interesting. So thank you. It was because, you know, lots of mountain people are also water people, and it's the constant tear between one or the other. So this was great fun.
It had a lot of variety and showed great preparation. It was never boring because it kept switching around so much.
And clearly he had done it before because he knew how to switch the video on, and we checked beforehand to make sure the audio was working. There was no need to do that. He has done this before, and he knew how to get it done.
What is his profession other than sailing?
It's a good question. Is Carol still on, or did she take off? Did Carol, or is she the one who
arranged that?
Carol was my point of contact for Lindsay.
The introduction said he was a direct businessman, businessman with direct marketing companies.
Oh, right.
And he sold his company and probably made a lot of money doing that. So
exactly, got to have a lot of money to be a yachtsman.
yeah. Exactly.
Well, what do they say about a boat? It's a hole in the ocean in which you pour all of your money.
Correct.
The best days of being a boat.
Absolutely, only surpassed by an airplane.
Exactly.
Parts have to be FAA approved.
I was just thinking that pilot talking about the boat pilot.
Yeah, Jack was a sailor. Obviously, he was in the Navy, grew up on the East Coast, taught at Annapolis, and we always had boats. And boat parts are really unbelievably expensive. We would go to Denver, and he would go to the boat store and drop me off somewhere to do some shopping. And I would come out with bags and bags of stuff and had, you know, having spent like $250. And he comes out with a little paper sack like this big, and it was $400. I mean, it just is crazy, you know, and you drop something in the water while you're stepping a mast or something, and it's like $50.
I had to deliver a boat part to Grenada to my sister when she was on her boat that my brother-in-law ordered. And I was all worried about all the other stuff that I was bringing in my suitcase for them, and medication and this and that. And the only thing they wanted to know was if I had a boat part. So not only did they have to pay for the boat part, but they had to pay the tariff to get the boat part into the country. Wow. Yeah, it's something else. They didn't care what I had as long as, but they wanted to know what boat parts I had.
How long ago was that, Stacy?
They came back in 2017, I think it was.
Recently.
Yeah, they were there for 2 years. Yeah.
Or just imagine an inboard designed for wake surfing now costs almost $150,000.
Oof.
The only parts that are more expensive are airplanes because they have to be FAA approved. So, yeah, I just put in an altimeter, a used one, and I think it was $700 to put it in. Yeah.
All right, I gotta go too. Thanks, guys. Good to see
everybody. Look forward to seeing you in person soon.
Hey, Jim, do you know anybody that would be an interesting presentation like that from all of your water skiing connections?
Well, none of them are in town,
No, they don't have, I mean, Lindsay wasn't in town
right?
on a Zoom call.
Would he have been here had we not
No.
had a pandemic?
Oh, no, no, he was only, this was set up because of the pandemic.
Well, I'll think on it, but it's really not very exciting as a world unless you're partially in it.
I doubt that.
Well, trust me on that.
Let's vote on this.
I even admit I don't watch competitive slalom skiing on TV because it's boring. And I know the people, I know what they're doing. I understand the difficulty, which is very high. It all looks the same and it all looks easy. Tricks is so complicated, you can't understand it even if someone's explaining it to you. And jumping all looks the same. And the only thing that's exciting is when someone crashes.
We could just put together a presentation of all crashes.
You go 250 feet in the air off a 6-foot ramp with the boat going 35 miles an hour. The skier accelerates up to 66, 70 miles an hour. He goes 250 feet and everyone goes, oh yeah. But when he falls going 100 feet, they love it. Or if he runs into the ramp, the side of the ramp, and goes up on the side and lands on his head and is taken to the hospital, they're all cheering and yelling and screaming.
Yeah.
It's like watching ski jumping before you move to a ski town.
It's not really a spectator sport.
I'm going to work on trying to get Rebecca to do one on Antarctica. I'll let you know about that. And then I still need to talk with, get Mo nailed down. I want him to, he's our emergency manager for Routt County, and he's had quite the year. So hopefully in January, he can kind of give us a wrap up of all things COVID, all things fires, that sort of thing. So those are two I'm still working on.
If your Antarctica one doesn't work out, my ex-boyfriend moved to Antarctica.
Oh, there we go.
My favorite joke is, what's colder, Jillian's heart or Antarctica?
Can I ask him when he presents to us?
Yeah, I'm sure he would love that.
I can only imagine your heart being cold if he was not very kind.
No, he was a really kind person. Ange can speak to that.
Oh God.
But he was not very happy with me when we ended things.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna note that any presentations in the winter need to take place from warm weather places.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm. I would be happy to give a presentation from Mexico, or
I was just gonna say, can we do one from Agua Prieta? Can they do something for us?
That's a great idea.
That is a great idea.
Yeah, you know, especially since we weren't able to go down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe Lynn Marr can present from Hawaii.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna text Steve Sainert right now and see if he wants to set up something with Agua Prieta.
I think that's a great idea. That's a great idea, Stacy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, you said Mexico, that planted the seed.
I was thinking a little more tropical with some sort of tequila in my hands.
They had tequila in Agua Prieta.
Maybe some of the Agua Prieta guys are making it to the coast, although I think they're going to get pummeled by a hurricane in the next day or so.
Oh God, really?
Yeah, there's one headed to the coast of Mexico and then Louisiana 2 days later. So I think by Wednesday, Louisiana.
They're going to run out of names.
They did. They had to start with the phonetic alphabet.
Oh, geez.
They got through the Greek alphabet?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, Jillian, think if you have enough tequila, it won't matter where you are.
I know, I try that out every now and then.
just as a proof of concept.
I just want to see if it'll take me someplace for, oh,
Yeah.
I must be drinking.
What tequila did you have for breakfast this morning, Jillian?
I thought it was water, but apparently it was tequila.
Well, I like this, that green ocean. That's pretty cool.
It's a good one.
Haven't seen that in a while.
Australia had a snow ski season during the pandemic last spring or last summer, whenever it was. And their biggest challenge is the snow. If they have they had a very bad snow ski season from wherever this resort was located. And that really affects how many people can, there's fewer runs, so you have to have even fewer people. And that's the fear we have to face. For example, if you only have the lower mountain open here, that really cuts back. So it'll be interesting to see how it evolves, because the Australians learned by trial and error that if you have half the mountain open, you can't take as many people. So it's going to be interesting.
That's the understatement of the year.
Yes.
Well, considering we broke our record for infections 3 days ago, since the start of the pandemic in Colorado, it does not bode well. And they just reduced they just closed one of the restrictions they just allowed 4 days ago or a week ago. Now you can only have 10 people. We're back to that.
But that was a statewide restriction, wasn't it? As opposed to a countywide.
Yeah, you have to follow this state.
Right. But the county, our county itself is still doing moderately well, but we have to revert to the state.
Unless you have a waiver. Yeah.
Actually, we're on probation now. We've gone over the limit of 19, but we have 2 to 4 weeks to solve the problem. And if we can solve it within 2 weeks, then we can stay where we're at. If we can't, then they blame Stacy. That's how I understand it.
No, they blame Carol. I didn't test positive.
Well, I just found out the chairman of the board of our adaptive national governing body, she just found out she had COVID, and that's the first person I know well. She's 62. Wow.
My
And
uncle
she's not in the hospital. She just felt like crap for 2 days and thought she was going to die, but now she's feeling better. But that's got to be scary.
My uncle just tested positive. He's fine, not quite asymptomatic, but mild symptoms. And my parents just moved back down to Florida for the winter. It's like, I know.
That's the state I would not want to be in. They're up in the top 5, and we call them, those of us who are fond of him, we call him Governor Blip, because at the beginning of the pandemic, he said, "Oh, this is just a blip. Don't worry about it. We'll be back in business in 3 weeks."
Well, they're back in business.
Yes, but they also have a record number of infections and deaths and hospitalizations.
Yeah, at what cost?
But we did have a water ski nationals with 600 skiers from all over the country. Not a single case came out of that event. And that goes from ages 90 on down to 5 or 6. That's pretty amazing.
What did they do?
See what happened with Sturgis. I mean, Sturgis infected the whole Northwest or the whole Midwest. Yeah.
Do you know what they did that made that so successful, Jim?
They just followed the rules. It's the way you're doing it in the schools here. They studied it. They're doing a very good job so far. It's very effective. There've been very few cases, and as soon as there's a case, quarantine. You just have to establish rules that are science-based and follow them. And the problem is we Americans don't like to follow rules, especially when they're imposed upon us, especially after, 6 months and a half?
Right.
That's just, look at South Korea. What if they had 7 deaths? Something just really minute, but they closed down completely for 2 months. I mean, nothing.
New Zealand too. I mean, they're having huge sporting events now because they have no cases.
Right.
I read an article about how they were doing contact tracing, and they said they were able to trace 3 cases to a single doorknob, and one was a doorknob and the other one was an elevator button. Like, that's how in depth they were getting. Where were you? What did you touch? And then ask the other person, where were you? What did you touch? And eventually they found the commonality of a button in an elevator.
I completely agree with Jim that Americans, that we have very short memories and we're rule followers.
Also, we have really short memories.
Yeah, that's what short memories.
Good one, Mark.
Yeah.
What's your background for that, Mark?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can look at it from, stuff that happens on 9/11 all the way. We don't remember. We don't follow rules. Yeah.
Well, they just, a major study just came out today proving that if you have COVID and you get antibodies, after 3 months, they lose effectiveness.
Well, isn't there somebody that just is recorded as the first person who got it twice?
The first one in the United States. Yes.
United States that got it twice. Yeah. And then there's people that haven't gotten rid of it. Like it comes back.
Yeah.
And they get re-hospitalized. So I don't know that the antibody thing tells you anything.
Well, Jillian, switching gears to cheer us up, I think it's a good day not to be outdoors for your Rotary meeting. It would have been even shorter, and there probably would have been 15 people. It was -2 here.
Yeah, I saw -9 this morning when I was on a walk.
That's cold.
And I'm not ready for -9. Like I had on my snow pants and sweatpants underneath and like 3 layers on top. And I mean, it's so funny because like the front of my legs and the back of my legs were frozen when I got back.
Really? You didn't warm up?
No.
You weren't walking fast?
Well, you know, my upper body, like under my down coat was plenty warm, but my lower body, it's just like, I don't know if you can't, it's hard to get your legs warmed up.
What do you know?
She couldn't walk too fast or she'd spill her tequila.
What do you wear when you're snow skiing? When I bike in the morning and it's 15 degrees, I wear a snow ski helmet, snow ski goggles.
Did you just ask me what I was wearing, Jim? I feel a little uncomfortable.
Well, that should warm you up. Maybe I should walk with you and tell you stories.
I keep asking you to walk with me and you keep on denying me. You're such a tease.
You didn't say, you said, come eat with me. You didn't say, come walk with me.
Would you like to go on a walk?
No. It's too cold. And they're opening our fitness center on Friday.
Oh, they are?
I won't have to, yes, with 8 people for an hour and a half. And they've moved the machines all around. It's just, it's mind numbing.
How many folks?
You'll be in that room with 8 other people working out or 7 other people working out?
Well, up to 8, but they put 10 feet between all the aerobic machines, and because that's the distance it's mandated on aerobic machines, and you have to wear a mask.
Is the Grand Open back up yet, Jim?
Oh, the Grand opened in June. We've actually had 80% occupancy, and we even had a group meeting. It was BMW 3 weeks ago. The weekends have been, July 4th was 77%. I think the next holiday was 80%, just 3 days. But we're having trouble keeping staff.
Believe that. Yeah.
They find better paying jobs, and the turnover. In fact, we only have 2 maintenance now, and we usually have, I think, 16. So that's one of our challenges.
Wow.
And the pool's been open the whole time, and there, no masks. You couldn't make people wear masks out at a pool or in the hot tub, and not at a 50-person limit. And they go 2 hours on, half-hour cleaning, and then the next 2-hour session, you can only sign up for 1 session a day. And it's the same with the fitness center, an hour and a half. And then they close for a half hour, and then they have cleaning, then they open up. So we'll see how that goes.
They're keeping those 2 maintenance people busy, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that was just recently that they left, but they're working really hard to compel people to wear masks, but it really isn't easy. Some are the majority are very, very careful, but some just don't give a shit. Excuse my French.
No, it's true.
That's what's sad. And you ask them politely, and there's all over the floor, they have signs to wear, and there's all these, at every elevator, you can put stuff on your hands. You ask someone to do it, he says, oh, we don't believe in that in Florida, or it's not in my religion. So, and they can't really kick them out of the hotel, but we have pulled security on them. They don't put on the mask. We have security to talk to them and say, if you don't wear your mask outside your room, you're out of here, and we will drag you out, and that's effective.
I don't see how we're going to get enough employees this year, because I got a call. I own a 2-bedroom condo at Timber Run, and I got a property manager trying to find someone to rent long-term from December 15th to April 15th for $6,000 a month for a 2-bedroom. So I didn't take it, But if that's what people are willing to pay to spend the whole winter here, what's going to happen to anyone who needs to find somewhere to live?
Right. Right.
Well, it's interesting. Real estate sales are off the chart.
It's all the people who now all their employers realize they're just as effective working remotely as they are in an office. So people are being let loose. You can live wherever you want as long as you can get online. So
Well, the
property values, people are moving where they want to live, not where they have to be anymore. So people move out here.
Yeah, there's a house 2 miles down the road from us here in Saddle Mountain that was on the market for 3 years. They got 3 offers in May, cash offers. So it hadn't had one offer in 3 years, and then they got 1.2 million cash offer. So our real estate is going to be a huge issue to have any employees, especially when a lot of businesses are at lower capacity. So they're not at full, they're only giving them 20 hours or 30 hours a week to work and not even a full-time job. So the people that rent my condo now, I rent it to them for $1,500 a month because they're local workers, but they go back to Mexico in December, and they're working 2 jobs, because the work's there and nobody wants to do it. So she's the head housekeeper at Homewood Suites, and then she also works at Starbucks because there's jobs and nobody to do them.
Right.
See, what I can't understand is how well the real estate market's doing. The average sale is for over $1 million, and it's to people who are going to live here full time rather than part-time. So people are actually moving to Steamboat to get away from the problems in the city caused by the pandemic. They've broken all sorts of real estate records. It's amazing.
It is amazing.
And above $1 million. I mean, that's and full
Well,
time.
see, money's cheap. So when they're only paying 2.5 or 3% interest, somebody who used to be in the 600,000 or 700,000 market can qualify for a bigger loan.
Interesting times.
They are.
I think this pandemic is going to be with us through the next summer.
It's like that blessing, the blessing curse. May you live in interesting times.
Yes, challenging times. And now the polls say, not polls, statistics say that only 50% of Americans may be willing to take the initial vaccines because they don't know if they're going to work. They're after, and 50% won't help us. Will barely make a dent in the pandemic.
If the vaccine's only 50% effective, then you may as well not have one. If only half the people take it.
Do you guys trust the testing either? I mean, look at Nick Saban. Originally, they said he wouldn't be able to coach the Alabama game the other night because he tested positive, and they just kept testing him every day until they got a negative test, and then they let him coach. So I don't know that the testing is that effective either.
Well, some are more effective than others. I mean, it's just a question of which system they're using.
I was going to say the same thing, Jim. Some are more accurate than others. I apologize, guys. I'd love to keep going, but
yeah, I gotta go too. It was nice talking to you.
Hi, guys. Thank you.
Julian, maybe it's time to start talking about virtual happy hours again.
Yeah, but can I ask you a quick question about that thing that the recording?
Yeah.
How do I get access? I'd like to edit it down and turn it into something for Lisa.
Yeah.
Do I need access to your YouTube for that?
I don't know how you can edit. I don't know what the tools are like on YouTube. I can do it if you give me kind of like where you want it to be cut, at 2 minutes.
How are you going to do it?
I have video editing stuff for work.
Are you talking about the presentation today?
No, well, Mark's going to start posting all of them, but a few weeks ago when we did all the memorial comments for Mike Schlichman, I'd like to take that and break it down and turn it into something for Lisa, and then do something similar with the one for Geneva.
It was very interesting. The Association of National Olympic Committees had the World Beach Games with 60 sports, and they did a 4-minute video, which was just astoundingly effective because everything was short. There would be a 10-second blip and and there were sports that I'd never seen on the beach. And
oh, cool.
Oh.
And there was for, we were included water skiing, so there was jumping and wakeboarding.
Oh, neat. Do you have it? Will you send it to me?
If I can find it, I will indeed.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.